Okay, perfect. That's great. Well, thanks everyone for coming along today. We are live. I am recording this for future marketing purposes. So if you want to change your name or go off camera, then by all means do. Today we're joined by Chris, who's my colleague at Vermont Systems, and Kevin Stansfield, who's action coach in the Southampton area. Before I hand over to those guys, I want to give you a quick introduction to who we are. We're an IT managed services company based in Southampton, but we cover the South Coast, and we've got an interesting way of managing people's IT, which I'll be happy to talk to you about at some point. At the start of the lockdown, we did a series of webinars around Microsoft Teams, cybersecurity, working securely from home, marketing, etc., and which have gone down pretty well. We've done one with the police. We've done two with the police, actually, Hampshire Police, around cybersecurity. That was pretty good. We've now looking at getting back to the office as the lockdown is starting to be eased in the UK. And so that's why we put this webinar together. And it's really, there's some good information from Kevin about what things to think about. And then from Chris, he's going to look at IT and what you need to plan, what you need to consider, and what steps you need to take to get your arms around the problem. We want to keep it as interactive as possible. So please feel free to ask questions at any time. Unmute yourself or raise your hand or type it into the chat. That's totally good with us. Okay, so that's the housekeeping done. I'm going to hand over to Kevin, who's going to introduce himself and then go through his slide pack that he's kindly prepared for us. Over to you, Kevin.
Okay, good. Thanks, Ollie, and welcome to this event. It's great to see companies like Ollie's and guys at Vermont to be thinking beyond just IT, because a business is such an integrated set of cogs that have to work together, and if you just look at one particular area without focus on all the others, you're not going to get this high performance machine that we're all trying to build here. And so for those that don't know me, I've been coaching businesses now for some 14 years. Before that, I was in accountancy practice and in industry. So I've been involved in really business since I was 11 years old. My parents both had businesses back in 1981. I think my dad started his business. So this is actually my sort of fourth recession. So, four of these I've been through. One of them was, so three have been in sort of global recessions. One was actually created by one of our customers. So this sort of up and down, flying along, and then suddenly the rug pulled out from underneath your feet, is, I wouldn't ever say it was normal, but businesses go in cycles. We expect every 7 to sort of 15 years something to happen that we just can't foresee. But there is a downtime, and there is as a result of the down, there is always an up. So over these times, you tend to get a bit resilient for it, but more importantly, you tend to have a plan for it. So when it does happen, what do you do? So I did some talks before about what we need to do as we were coming into this. This one now is focused on, right, what do we need to do as we come out? And to be honest, it's not a lot of difference. But the first thing we've got to look at is, where are we in this cycle? Where have we actually got to? So obviously we went through lockdown. For some of you that were shut down completely, that should have been the time where you were training, or you were getting your team to do the training. So it's a bit like a sporting analogy. In the off season, you don't just sort of sit there and drink beer. That's your training time. That's where you do your training. You see some of the athletes at the moment, they're actually saying they're coming back fitter and stronger now, than they would do in a normal season, because they've actually just spent 3 months. They never have 3 months of just training in a normal sporting calendar. There just isn't that amount of time. So they're actually coming back bigger and stronger. So that's really what we should have done. So we're now, really depends on where your business is. Some of you would have been closed and you're just coming into that warming up. Some of you would have been, a bit open, and now you're coming into this sort of sprint phase, okay, where we're really starting to pick up the pace now. Certainly a lot of my clients, we're well into this now, where we've been in the game and we're starting to get ahead of all of the competition. We're 20% up on sales because we stayed in the game during here while everyone else locked down and shut down and did nothing. We were doing all this, and we're now ahead of that sort of period. So wherever you are between here, this period was really where it's a good chance to review your business, sort of look at it, take stock. This now is the planning phase, which is, what Ollie sort of wanted me to sort of come and talk about. And then we're going to start to execute that plan. This is really where we need to take those ideas and really put them into practice so that we can, as we come out of this and we have the upswing, we can ride that wave and really push forward over the next sort of 2-3 years. So really this is the sort of focus. So where we're looking at here is this sort of plan phase. What do we plan? And we all know that planning is important. Anything that needs to be done that is important in life needs a plan. If you're going to get married, you'd have a wedding plan. If you're going to build a house, you'd have a blueprint for the house. If you're going to bake a cake, you'd have a recipe, which is a plan. But when it comes to a business, often people say, yeah, I need a plan, but then they don't know what to put in that plan. So if we are where we are looking forwards, then my view of this is there are 4 key areas to put in your bounce back plan. And it's no different to when we came in, it's just the focus is in a slightly different way. So the first area is always, in my mind, finance. Having come from a finance background, and know that whole adage of cash is king, that we've got to have a real look at our financial situation of where we actually are. Then our focus, I think, goes into sales and marketing, is looking where the market is going to be, how we're going to exploit that and actually drive our sales forwards. After that, it's really about our people, so making sure that we use this time to rebuild our team, make sure the strength is in our team, and operationally we are as efficient as we possibly can be. So these 4 areas, I use all the time. It's not, I don't use them just in a bounce back as we are. I always come back to this. So I very much, with clients, we work on a 90-day cycle. So every 90 days we look at these areas and we will find the strategies in each one. The priority will change. So sometimes the priority is down here, sometimes the priority is up here, sometimes the priority is here. Every business may be slightly different. The first thing I would say is think about your priority, what's going to have the biggest positive impact on your business over the next 90 days, and that's number 1. So that's where the most of your strategies will be. After that, you can have number 2, number 3, and you may only have 1 or 2. Some businesses will have, where you've got more team, you've got people focused in each of these areas. So that's the overview. So the first thing to do is grab a piece of paper, put a big cross in the middle, head them up, finance, sales and marketing, people, operations, and then start thinking about what you need to actually put in place. So if we look at the finance side of things, we've got to sort of think about what is really key here. So for me, number 1 always is cash. Okay, now for some of you, you've got bounce back loans in place. If you haven't got a bounce back loan and you've been dilly-dallying whether you should, my personal view is get it. Okay, because it's very, very rare do you actually get given, in effect, free money. It's not free, it's free for 12 months. Then you've got to pay for it. But we don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what's going to happen in 3 months. We've got Brexit at the end of this year. If you've got a chance to have cash in your bank at this stage, I would say take it. Make sure it's allocated, it's safe, but that will be one of the areas. After that, then these are my sort of 4 key areas to focus on. So really, you've probably extended credit for a lot of customers at this time. But you've got to start getting that money back, because businesses are going to go bust. Okay, there is no, it's an unfortunate thing from this, but businesses are going to go bust in the next 12 months. You've got to make sure that you're at the head of the curve when it comes to getting your money in. The second part is make sure your invoicing is really up to square. There's no point in being a week late, a month late, 3 months late with your invoicing, because if you're late and the money's not coming in, you're just going to jeopardize the security of your business. Then look at all of your costs. If you've done that in the lockdown, which you probably have, great. But if you haven't, then there are other areas where you need to look at and look to save money. Become as lean and mean as you possibly can. And if you carry stock, make sure that you're looking to actually move that stock on. You're not sitting on old stock. I was reading, there was an article from the HMRC. I get an update every day on the COVID thing. And they were talking about the wastage on beer stock, the fact that all these pubs have closed down and all their beer's gone off, and there's some relief for you to actually write off stock. But we should be moving all of our stock. Turn anything that's an asset that isn't cash into cash. Get that cash so you've got that fighting fund to move forward. And then the second area for me is really about reporting, getting the numbers, knowing your numbers, having your cash flow forecasts on a daily if you're a daily business, weekly if you're a weekly business, monthly if you're a monthly business. Okay, so really know your numbers. Have your profit and loss accounts, projections, budgets. You've got to start planning now for the rest of this year. I know forecasting is difficult. How do I know what's going to be? I don't care. Come up with something. You know enough about your business to put something down. It's basically a stake in the sand that you can compare where you are to. So you're constantly monitoring towards where you're going to go. If you go for a run, if you're a runner, you go for a run, you always have a set time in mind to actually go running for. So these will be my key areas to look in your finance side of things. Once you're strong on your finances, then you want to really turn your focus into your sales and marketing. Where are the opportunities that you're going to drive forwards? So for that, you need a marketing plan. Okay, you've got to have a really forward-thinking marketing plan. So who are your new targets? Are there old targets that perhaps you've stopped communicating to? Offers, the offers that we were giving 3 months ago, 6 months ago, probably need to be revised because the market has changed. People's needs have changed now. So you've really got to look at your offering. How are you going to, what are you actually going to offer? With a client just before this, and we've come up with a brand new offering for the market right now. Okay, it's just something that we came up in a conversation that sounded really good, and we're now putting a whole marketing plan around getting that offer out into the market. And then how do we communicate? How do we get this message out? People are still not all back in their offices. So, old ways can be more difficult. Online is good, but it's very noisy. It's very difficult to get through the noise that's out there. So we've got to look at, really have clarity around that and really know your numbers. Sales and marketing is always about return on investment, more so than ever. If you're spending money on marketing that isn't providing you a return, then you've got to really consider whether you should be doing it and whether you need to put that money into something else. Revisit your sales pipeline. There'll be people in your pipeline that have been sitting there that you haven't been able to contact. That's where your quick cash is. Going back to your old people that have been sitting there, maybe that they were trying to decide, or you contact them just before the lockdown and they sort of say, well, I'm not too sure. Go back to them, talk to them, see where they are in their buying cycle. Because when things move, they tend to move quite quickly, and you want to make sure that you do convert those ones that you spent the time on. Once we've got once we've got sales and marketing, then think about the opportunities around your people. So the first thing, always safety first. Okay, so really think about your COVID-19 sort of safety. I was actually on the train yesterday, and they're very hot on that. I went into a shopping centre, which is a really weird experience, going into a shopping centre these days. Wearing your face mask and arrows around, 2 metre spacing, one-way systems. whether you believe it or not, what's going on, there's a lot of perception here, and people need to feel safe and secure if they're going to work well. Customers, but also your own team. So make sure that you've got a safety plan to get your people back to work. Back to work interviews, these people, you've got some people that have been furloughed for a number of months. Really think about, what you need to do to interview them. How are they feeling? Just asking them to come back to work, assuming that it's going to all be normal, is the wrong thing. Takes 5 minutes. Sit down. How you feeling? How's furlough been? What are your worries? What are your concerns? I'd much rather know them now and help them to deal with it than find that they come back to work and then a month later I'm in a performance review because their performance down, because actually all along they've been worried about what's going to happen. We don't know what's going on in their personal lives, how they've been affected by this, and a lot of people need that reassurance for these back to work interviews. Another good thing is actually reset the goals. When we take a break, it's a little bit like a football team that's taken the summer off. We come back first day of the season, right? What's the goal for this season? Last season we either we won the league, we didn't win the league, but that was last season. This is a new season. So sit down, reset the goals. We can't do this until we've done the finance stuff. If you haven't set your sales goals and profit goals for the rest of 2020 into 2021, then you won't be able to set the goals for your teams. So reset those goals, look at the rules of the game to actually realign your team back into what they're trying to do. It's so important that business to me is playing a game. We want to play it to win, but if we don't know what winning looks like, then how am I going to give my best? So make sure that alignment for goals and rules is there. Communication. I said right at the outside of this, communication is going to be key. Over communicate. Okay, keep that communication up. Just because we're back at work does not mean that communication stops. Okay, there is still uncertainty. We don't, the whole thing of Leicester, being suddenly locked down again. We're going to have this uncertainty for at least another 6 months. Okay, so keep those communications, keep talking to your team to make sure they understand where they are. And for some of you, not everybody, but if you are in this position and your numbers are looking good, start recruiting now. Okay, the talent that is out there, is amazing at the moment. People that have been furloughed that are looking for jobs, people that their organisations have not done anything to help them along, are starting to think, well, do I really want to work for this organisation now? So start looking at the recruiting of who you want and who's going to be your team members for the next 12 months. Even if you recruit and you're not ready to take them on like now, building that data bank of talent that you could call upon, I think is key. So we're doing a lot of this work with clients at the moment, looking and finding, say, some really good people that we would never have found, 6 months ago, never have found them. And if you're one of those businesses that does have to make cuts, that you can't bring everybody back off furlough, it is unfortunate, but your key purpose is to maintain the business. The business has got to stay in the game. If your business goes bust because you didn't get rid of people, then it's not just the people that you would have made redundant, lives are now a mess, it's everybody else's. So there are some tough calls that you're going to have to make. You're going to have to look at this, look at your numbers. Have we got the right balance of people to sales? Can I carry this? And if you do have to do it, my view is always, if you're going to make cuts, make them hard. Do it hard to start with. But if you are going to do it, do get professional advice. Do not make redundancies. I'd say in the normal times, don't do it without professional advice. Now is even more so because of the furlough, because the way it works, and the systems are going to be scrutinized and quite a lot if we don't do this right. So get some proper advice for that. The final area then is your operations. It's because so many of you have got different businesses, it's difficult to sort of say exactly what you need to do, but I would look at this and say, as we come back, identify 5 areas in your business to improve. Okay, just look at, there's always something. Now, again, if you're ramping up, you might have a bit more time to actually sort of think about these, but you want to make sure that we're coming out of this stronger than we were when we went in. So find those 5 areas that you can improve. And there will be, you know, bad habits. There will be things that you used to do that used to annoy you, that weren't quite right. If you don't fix these now as we come back, people will go back to their old bad habits, and then again they're going to be harder to change. You've got a window of opportunity now because there's a lot of change happening, that if you want things to change, now is the time to get them changed. So make sure they don't go back. And, you know, in a way, treat today is like the first day of a brand new business. You know, what would you, if today was the first day of your business, what would you have in place? What would you do? All of those things that we didn't do right or messed up in the past, you can forget those. It's a brand new sheet of paper. Write out exactly how the operation should work, which is really, really key. And be prepared to invest in efficiencies. You know, I think now's the time to invest in new computer systems. You know, get rid of those old computers that have been slowing you up. Invest in software that is going to automate processes more. You know, we're doing a lot of work at the moment. If you've got that bounce back loan and you're wondering what to do with it, you know, I would say really consider investing in people and processes. Yeah, make that money work. It is no good sitting in the bank earning you 2, 3, you know, or nothing interest. You know, and then in 12 months' time going, oh well, I better repay this. You know, you've got some money, make it work. Turn that 50 grand into 150,000. Yeah, but don't just do it from a whim or an emotion. Do it from your plan. You know, plan it out. Look, really set those targets of what you need to do. So really look at what you can invest, you know, to move the business forwards. And, you know, the old adage, who fails to plan is planning to fail. You know, this is your time now. We've still got, you know, July is still going to be a bit of a, you know, an unknown month. You've got time. If you haven't done your plan already, July is the time to put this plan together. You know, if you want a bit of help, that's what I do. I'm still giving an hour, you know, an hour a day aside to business owners who want a bit of help with their plan. You know, if I can help anybody, then I will. You know, it's so important to think about this, to go through the process. And don't forget that the plan is not necessarily the end document. It's the process of the planning that is the most important. And that's where the ideas come out. You know, when you go into battle, you could be prepared to throw the plan away, but the process itself is vitally important to make it work. And that's it. That's my top 4 areas to focus on. Are there any questions?
Silence.
Silence. There was always silence. Is a chat box working, Ollie?
Yes, it is. Chris is on mute. If you were saying something, Chris.
Sorry, thanks, Ollie. Yeah, I've got a question to kick you off, Kevin.
Great.
You sort of emphasised planning there at the end quite a bit. Do you find, you know, as business owners, business managers, we're good at planning?
As human beings, we're awful. As human beings, we're awful at planning.
Okay.
It's a natural thing. We're not built to plan. Yeah. If you go back, if you look at the psychology of the way our brains work, certainly when we're in danger. So imagine, you know, a big bad wolf comes into the room to attack you. Yeah, are you going to sit down and write a plan to escape that wolf? No, you're going to run away. So we're built to run away. We're built as a fight or flight animal. Okay, that's millions of years of evolution. Instinct is fight or flight. So that's what we're good at. Actually sitting down and thinking forwards and planning, it's part of our brain called the neocortex, which is our thinking brain, which is slow, it's cumbersome. Yeah, it worries, it frets, it sees dangers, that it looks in the woods and sees things that aren't there. Okay, but the more you do it, the more you work that muscle, and the more you actually think about planning and what it can do, and the more you enjoy it. Yeah, and it should be an enjoyable experience. Plan. I love planning. It's great because I can plan for this, I can plan for that. We have a number of different ideas of what I want to do. And you get used to actually doing those numbers, and then it's easy. It's I can do a plan now for my own business in 15 minutes.
Because you practiced it, and
because I just practice it. It's just natural for me. I can sit down, and it literally is. It's using those 4 boxes. Right, what's 3 things I need to do in each? Great. Am I clear on that? That's it. Great. Let's go for it. But that's come from years of experience in it. When you're sitting there, coming out of a crisis like this with, there are a lot of worries of what's going to happen, what's over here, and my big thing for that is control the controllables. Everything else, forget about. You can't control Brexit. Brexit is, it's out there. It's going to happen. Who knows what's going to happen? COVID-19, I can't control it. It's going to happen. What can I control? What I can do today. What I can do next week. Okay, these are things we've got to. There's a lovely sort of book called "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff." The stuff that's outside your control. Don't worry about it. Be aware of it, plan for it, but don't let it stop you in your tracks, because that's what kills you. And procrastination is the biggest killer of dreams. If you procrastinate and worry about it and think about it, that's when you don't move forward. If you plan, you stop procrastination, because you've actually said, this is what I'm going to do, this is my commitment, and then you actually make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. That really resonates with my experience, and I think we went through a phase with our business where we weren't good at planning at all, and we didn't get good results, and we felt inadequate in a way, or we thought everyone else is clearly really good at planning, and we're the only people on, and maybe we're not sort of cut out for this almost. And but as we figured it out, got help, got better at it, built those muscles. It's really interesting, and it's great actually to hear that, Kevin, that that we're not the only ones that were in that position.
Really, I mean, if I did a straw poll of all the businesses out there, I'd probably say less than 10% had a written plan. And if you go back to a life plan, actually people planning out their life, it's 1%.
Right.
But when they study people that have had success and they say to them, do you plan? Most of the successful people say, yeah, I plan. It'll be different formats, different ways of planning, but the process will be there. Now, there's no sportsman on this planet that doesn't go into a game without a plan. And it's the first thing, they work with their coaches. Right, what's my game plan for today? I don't just turn up and say, I'll just swing a golf club and see if I hit a few balls in the right direction. I know a lot of golfers play golf like that, but not serious sports people. Now whether they get there and the plan doesn't always work, as I found out yesterday, it was bloody awful. My plan didn't work at all. But that's the beauty of games. Tomorrow's another game. You learn from it. You adapt. You move forwards. I think one of the key lessons I've learned with planning, goal setting and planning, because you can't plan unless you set goals. There's no point in doing a plan unless you've got a goal. Okay, that's why a lot of people struggle with plans. It's not because they're bad at plans; it's they're bad at goal setting. It's a bit like why would I need a wedding plan if I'm not getting married? There's a pointless exercise. Why would I need a recipe if I'm not baking a cake? So what we're actually really bad is at goal setting. And the reason we're bad at goal setting is because if I set myself a goal, I might fail. So if my goal was, right, I'm going to double the size of my business in the next 12 months. There's a big chance. There's actually a bigger chance of you failing to do that than there is succeeding. And we're inbuilt not to like failing. We just no one likes failing. No sports person likes to lose. They just are good. They've become professional, so they come to accept that I will probably lose more times than I win. But every time I lose, I'll learn from that, and I'll get better and better, and eventually I will start winning more times than I actually lose. And then you're at the top. You're in the elite sort of 1% at that stage. But not everyone's going to be there. You look at people that play on the tennis circuit. How many of those people actually go out knowing that they're going to win a Grand Slam?
How many?
3.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, mate.
Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. You know, Graham's putting his hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Now, you mentioned the bounce back loan. Does that interfere with the C-bills? Because we're applying for a C-bills loan, which is we're applying for 250,000.
Great. C-bills, same thing. You know,
It's not the same thing. The bounce back is easy. You can do that online. You get it almost automatically because it's 100% guaranteed. C-bills, you've got to do a lot more work to get it.
C-bills, you've got to do a lot more. It's the same principle. It's a government-backed loan.
But if we get the C-bills, can we get the bounce back as well? It's one or the other.
One or the other. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, it's basically what happened was the C-bills was the first thing they set up, and the banks made it extremely difficult for anybody to get it.
Yes, they do.
And so everyone was going, well, I can't get this, and they're saying, look, I only want 20 grand, 50 grand.
Yeah.
So that's when they changed and brought the bounce back to make it really simple.
Okay.
Anyone can get 50 grand. But if you want the 250, then yeah, the C-bills is good. The stats are getting better. It was around about 10% that were getting them. It's getting better, but yeah, you do have to put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, we're jumping through all the hoops at the moment for C-bills, but if we don't get that, we'll just go for the bounce back.
If you want to cheat, I've just had one with a client, and they sort of want the money but don't need the money. If you see what I mean?
We're in the same position.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than a nice to have.
Yeah.
They've got a very good trader, been trading for a long time, very good trading for the last few years. And the cheat of the system is Funding Circle.
Funding Circle.
Funding Circle, yeah. So if you want, Graham, if you ping me an email, I'll introduce you to my guy at Funding Circle. They got approved for £250,000 loan within 24 hours with no work whatsoever.
Okay.
It's going to cost you a little bit more than the bank, so you're looking around about 5% interest rate, which is still good in my book. You know, your business borrowing at 5%. Yeah. And I think there might be a few bits of fees to add on to that, but if you don't want to put the business plan together and be talking to banks, etc. Yeah, it was for them. It was a no-brainer. It was a case of, look, if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we'll get the bounce back. Yeah. And they put it in. They got, actually, I was surprised they got the full 250. I thought they might get 150, but they got the full lot.
Yeah, we've put everything together, so we'll persevere with that through HSBC. We're talking to. If not, I'll come back to you, Kevin.
Come back to me, and yeah, I've got contacts that will. You got to hit certain criteria, but which I knew they would, which is why I said, look, just if it's there, go for it. Yeah,
you mentioned investing, and that's what we wanted for. We want to completely revamp our IT system, get rid of our in-house servers, go completely in the cloud, get rid of our phones in the office, all that sort of stuff.
I mean, that is the problem with the C-bills. The bank will look at it and say, well, you want it for investing, therefore it doesn't qualify.
Yeah.
they only want to help those people that are dying.
I won't tell them that. I'll keep that up.
Yeah, you've got to put a case together that says, oh, no, we've been terribly affected by COVID and we're not going to survive unless we get this money. Then they'll give you the money if you say, look, actually, we're a really healthy company. I've got a company we've doubled in size in the last 6 months because of COVID's helped us. We want 100,000 to invest in some new equipment, and the banks won't lend it to us.
Wow.
They said you haven't been negatively affected by COVID, so we can't give you the money.
Doesn't surprise me.
And it's like, you know, sell you umbrellas when it's not raining and then take it away from you when it is. But that's, I'm being very, a lot of the banks are being quite, HSBC are not too bad actually. But yeah, my experience of the C-bills loans has been a ball ache, every single one that we've got, and we have never got the full amount either. Whereas the Funding Circle one was literally 24 hours, a phone call, an online form, send some accounts in, some bank statements in, job done.
Okay. Right.
Great tip.
Thanks Thanks, Kevin. That's a really good tip, and very interesting about the funding circle. Okay, so unless there's any more questions for Kevin, if anything comes up, we'll say that towards the end. But if Chris, if you want to pick up now and just go through planning around IT.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks, Kevin. It was, excellent, really valuable insights, and I was really just keen picking up on those questions about planning. Because what's been interesting from our, to give you a little bit of perspective on what it's like to be the IT people in a pandemic. Not that you might not care, but hopefully you care a little bit in terms that you need their help. And as part of what Kevin's been saying, that that we're only a small part of this equation, but certainly getting people to work from home and then getting them back into the office, IT, is an important part of that. And what I was really interested in, Kevin, actually was what you were saying about the fight or flight mentality. That's what we're wired up to. And of course, when the pandemic hit back in March, I think if it's really hard to think back that far, with hindsight now, it's so obvious how this all went. But it was like, is this a thing? Because it had never happened before, as now pandemic seems strangely normal. But is this really going to happen? And it all really kicked off so fast when it happened. It was like this tidal wave, like coming in, wasn't it? For all of us in our businesses, figuring this out and what's going to happen. And actually, what you probably found was that your IT people did an incredible job of, within the space of days. I mean, we certainly, us as a company, it was about a 4-week period where we moved, 1,000 people, 1,500 people from working at home, working in their offices to working at home. And if you'd have said that to me at the start of the year, hey, Chris, can you do this project in this amount of time with basically no budget? It's impossible. Yet we did it, and we're not the only people that did it. I'm sure your IT people did exactly the same thing. Whether they're in-house people or an outsourced company that you use a bit like us. IT people did an incredible job. My team, I didn't do any of the work. My team did the work. They did an incredible job of getting people set up remotely, figured it out, got it all done, and I think the big danger is that that really ties into that fight or flight thing, Kevin. I think you said we were brilliant at that. The adrenaline was pumping. We were like the fifth emergency service, keeping businesses going. And the team loved it. But it's not going to be like that on the other side. And I think this is one of the things that I see that maybe some of us, certainly talking to businesses as we do quite often, I think some of us are sleepwalking into this thing that will just bring everyone back, phone the IT support desk and say, I've got 20 guys ready to start work today, get them working. And the IT company, IT guy, he's not going to thank you for that this time around. Like he did his goodwill thing, and he worked bloody hard for that. And he's not going to love that. And a lot of IT organizations now suddenly put restrictions around that as to how they're going to handle it, how are they going to protect day-to-day business. A little bit, Kevin, like you were saying about, the people that have done their planning are going to get priority, and the people that haven't, maybe you're going to go into a second queue. And I think that's fair, and because we've got to manage this. And I think that's just wanted to give you some perspective on that as business owners, business managers, that hopefully our IT people are coming to you around about now, or maybe they've already done it, or they're going to do it soon. Hey, what is the plan? When are you bringing people back? What are we going to do with that? What's going on? Because otherwise we're relying on that fight or flight response, and I don't think it's going to be there on this side. And it doesn't need to be there because we didn't have time. None of us had time to plan coming into this, but now we do have the opportunity to plan. So I'd really want to encourage you to take it, because, and again, just picking up on what Kevin was saying around, treat it like the first day back in the office. And it's a new business, this is a new thing, we're doing this new thing together. And if that new thing starts with a bunch of people sitting around who can't remember their passwords because they've been off for 3 months, or their PC, they turn their PC on that morning, and guess what happens? Windows going to run a whole shed load of updates, and no one's going to get any work done till at least 11 o'clock. That doesn't make you look awesome and get your business back off to that sort of Uber start that we're all hoping for with a bang, and it's exciting. Actually, everyone's sitting around wondering who's making the next round of tea. So a little bit of planning. So what we're doing some exercises with our clients at the moment, and I was just, sharing this with Oliver the other day, and he said, hey, look, can we do a webinar on it? So look, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share with you just to go through, and we're going to make this workbook available to you after this today. We'll put a link out to you, but just to see just to show you what we're doing, how we're helping people with this, and that can maybe be something that you're welcome to use it. Your IT people might have their own planning document. That's fine. So what I've got is we just put this workbook together. We use it for all of our clients. Obviously, if you're just using it for your own company, you wouldn't need to fill in this top bit. But what we want to know is, how is this return going to look? When are different groups of people going to be returning? Is everyone coming back at the same time, or more likely it's going to be in a staged approach? So when is that? How is that going to happen? Just so we can start to set a timeline out. And really important, if you've got people coming back and you haven't talked to IT, if this is a short-term thing, you need to, tell them really quickly, because then they can help you. The less time you give them, the less quality job they can do, because they can't do that planning piece. So, and also sharing with your IT people how that decision is going to get made, so that that we can stay in the loop with you guys as making business decisions around how long it's going to take maybe to get things set up, rather than you making a plan in isolation from the people that are going to help you to get there. And it's not just the IT people, obviously, you need to speak to, but maybe other suppliers as well that are going to be as part of this. And then we've just broken it out into all the different areas you might want to think about. So you thinking about things like remote access. Now, one of the things that happened on coming into this is you might have had great remote access solutions already in place, and it was dead easy to get your team working remotely. Other people didn't. And I guarantee that some corners were cut setting up remote access systems really fast. And what you don't want to do is, as you bring people back in, is leave those doors open, because that's a security issue. You've all probably seen the headlines around cybercrime becoming an increasing problem. So if you've opened VPNs up, or remote desktop session, and you don't need those anymore, make sure you tidy up after yourselves, so that things, so that you retain some good security. So that's listed out there, so you can think through that, work out what needs shutting down. Remote desktop servers, have people been using a remote desktop server that or a temporary PC and they're going to go back to a different system? Have they been saving documents onto that machine or onto that system, and then all of a sudden it's not available on their office PC, and so that work they have been doing from home isn't available now they come back into the office. Just a couple of other things. Printers, some people took printers home with them because they needed to keep printing invoices and that sort of thing. Really great opportunity to review. Hey, did you use that printer, or did we figure out how to do this all online now? Do we still need to? So printers are so old-fashioned and they're so flaky. Like they're one of the, like when we look through our call logs, printers are one of the most common things that break. So if you can do without printers, it's a great opportunity to do that. But as people bring the printer back, who's going to be on site to test that, to make sure it's working? And the same with computers. If you took computers home, a lot of people did this, took a PC under the desk, took it home, plugged it all in. Just got to think through how that's going to come back, because who's going to connect it up? And maybe you're moving desks around in the office for social distancing. Who's thinking that through? Who's getting the extra long network leads to stretch to where that desk's moving? And those little rubber strip mats that you need to put down for health and safety, to avoid the trip hazard. What's happening with that? And these computers that are coming back in, because if you bring it back in and you connect it up, yeah, it'd probably be fine. If it isn't, your IT support are probably remote, and they can't then connect to that machine to figure out what the problem is. And so now, again, you're stuck in this catch-22 where IT are really struggling to help you remotely. So maybe just thinking through who can be on site to help through any glitches, any snagging that might happen. And also, thinking again about computers that are coming back in. They've been at home on the same home network as the kids' PCs, as the Xboxes, as all that sort of crap, which is an insecure network. Who knows what else is going on your network that's accidentally been installed by someone that might have now infected that business computer with some sort of malware. So making sure we're scanning those machines just before they come, or as part of the return to the office process is a good one to think about. Thinking about furloughed people, I think we covered this. Those machines haven't been on for a while, so just thinking through who can whip round and just turn those machines on a couple of weeks before in advance. Just thinking that through. We talked about office setups, who's actually going to take care of all of those bits. Really easy to think through. There's not a lot of rocket science to this, but just making sure it's thought through in advance. And again, safe working. If you're gonna get one of your IT people on site to work with your users, how is that interaction going to happen? Bring the PC in. Where do you put it? Now, who wipes that down? Now the IT picks it up, and it's like this dance you've got to coordinate. Which sounds sort of really dumb in a way, but just thinking that through so that it goes well and that you're impressing your returning staff with this well-executed, well-oiled plan to do that. Furloughed staff we've talked about a little bit, and I think forgotten passwords is going to go to one of the top support requests, because people haven't been in the office for 3 months, been at work for 3 months, and they can't remember their passwords. It's really easy just to get a password reset done on that in advance. Make sure the office manager's got those temporary passwords, and then they can log right in and get running. It's a real good opportunity to impress people with your newfound planning skills that Kevin's taught us. And also what projects and changes have happened. Maybe you have taken the opportunity to make some improvements during lockdown, whilst it's been less people there. But now you've got to get all those returning people up to speed, and how's that going to happen? That might be a real little thing, like you might have turned on multi-factor authentication to add some extra protection for security, and so those returning people need to know just how to get set up on that, or you might have put in some sort of new system or whatever else to make sure that's all done. So just hopefully, just whiz through that, but just hopefully to see none of this is difficult. It's something you could sit down to do, but this sheet would hopefully guide you through doing that. And what we've done with the sheet is that in each section, as you go through, you might have spotted there's a required action that you can put a checkbox in, and is any staff communications required? So for each line item, is there an action or is there a communication piece that it needs doing? And then we've got tabs here so that you can just start to collate the actions as you go through this planning exercise. To list those out, and again the communication piece, and we've just put a few things in here to get you started, but just listing out what do we need to be telling people as we're planning it through. We'll make that nice, and then you can just cut and paste that, pop that into some emails, and get that out to people in advance, so they really feel, like Kevin said, that you're really looking after people as they come back into the office, that this is going to be great, that they're going to be safe, that this is going to go well. And we only have this for IT, that's our thing, but you could easily build this sort of process out for other areas. So this is a document that we put together that we're working with our clients on, and we're really happy to distribute it out to you guys as well. If it's useful to you, just to help with your planning, you can work with your IT people to fill that in. And we're a little bit like Kevin. Our view is that the better this goes for everyone, the better it's going to go for us, because if the Hampshire economy, if the British economy does well because we've done a good job of this, then that's got to be good for everyone. So we're happy to give a little bit of value out, where we can do that. So that's all I've got for you today. Happy to take any questions on that, or any more questions for Kevin. Back over to you.
Thanks, Chris. That was good. So we got any questions from anyone? Graham, Eddie? No, all good, all self-explanatory.
I have an observation, I think, more than a question. It's really refreshing to see an IT company taking this forward in a way that's not just utility-based service, because anyone can do IT if it's just about feeds and speeds and connections. What we're seeing, we do a lot of work with clients putting them through ISO accreditations, and it's the people that are getting on top of the game there. And this approach is really refreshing to see. So thanks very much. And what I'd like to do is try and book a session with one or two of you, Chris or Oliver, to talk through and see if there's anything we can do with our clients to see if they ought to think about switching providers, because they're just not getting this level of service.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah, that's great, Eddie. I'll contact you after the call and we can.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. I think, picking up on Eddie's point there, it's it's something that we've been working a lot of clients on, is looking at your customers and going above and beyond, and looking at your proposition. We are not just providers of this and that. We are all here to help our clients to achieve their goals. And talking to them and finding out what they need and supporting them is key. If you want to keep a client long term, that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're just a commodity. And as we know with commodities, I'll just change the cheapest provider. But people are not going to.
I don't think that's going to work in the
service these guys are producing.
The new regime.
If you can get it 10% cheaper, you're not going to go because, well, I'm not going to get that level of service somewhere else. And I think maybe that's something that will come out of COVID is we move away from this idea of cheap. That we don't. No one wants cheap. We don't need cheap. What we want is value. But we have to be better as as the suppliers of value to actually explain what that is, because people are not sitting there and try and work it out for themselves. We've got to be very explicit with that. And I think doing things like this, like Ollie and Chris have done, is just testament to that. That it's beyond delivering the service. It's the whole package, which is key. So,
yeah,
awesome.
Chris,
yes.
A question. We've been using Zoom extensively since lockdown. I've never used it before, but I think it's absolutely great, and we've got loads of benefits from it. And it's something we want to encourage when we go back. But we're not sure whether we stick with Zoom or we go to Teams, or maybe there's another option. Have you got a preferred option?
Yeah, great question. And it might be Eddie's might have some comments on that as well. It'd be interesting to see. But from our perspective, when lockdown started, let's say before March, right? I thought every video meeting tool was broadly the same. It allowed us to do what we're doing today. Get your face on the screen, have a chat with each other. But I think, and I'm sure, all of us maybe know an awful lot more about video meeting solutions than maybe we ever wanted to know at this point, between doing business ones, this sort of thing. But also, I'm sure you're the same, you're sort of doing Friday nights with a glass of wine with friends and family, and Sunday afternoons with, it's all sort of, sort of spend half our lives on video calls now, don't we? And so what I would say is, they've all got strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of security sort of headlines around Zoom, particularly. A few weeks ago, which is maybe why you've got a caution on that, Graham. Am I right? Is that also why you're questioning the use of it, or not?
No, we're just wondering what to use going forward. That's all.
Okay.
We want to adopt it as a general tool for the company going forward.
If it's worked well for you, and people know how to use it, then that's maybe a good place to start. We use Teams because our email system and a lot of the other tools that we use are a sort of Microsoft centric. So we're sort of into that Office 365 environment. So for us, it was just the default first place to go. With that, a lot of so it's just that easy. So we were using Teams 2 years ago before all this started. So for us, as a company, it was an easy transition to make, and we just started using it. And I could never really see the difference why anyone would want to use Zoom, but now I can see why Zoom's so good at what it does. It's so optimized at being a brilliant meeting solution. So particularly, Graham, if you've got, I don't know, how many staff have you got? You sounded like maybe you've got quite a few.
About 140.
Yeah, 140. So we're like 10 people. You're 140. So, if you wanted to get 140 people on a Teams meeting, that's not going to work so well. Whereas Zoom is brilliant because you can have that gallery view and people can see each other for bigger meetings. I think that's a fantastic feature. And with breakout rooms in Zoom as well, again, brilliant. If you're doing a sort of longer meeting with people, you can break them out into rooms, have some discussion, come back together. I think it's some tremendous features in Zoom that Microsoft just don't have yet. In Teams, whereas if you're backing into that Office 365 environment, and then it does interoperate really well with that. So it's really hard for me to give you a straight cut answer on it. We'd probably have to spend a bit more time talking about the requirements. But
I just wanted an opinion. That was all.
Yeah. Is that enough of an opinion?
I've been through the same thing, Graham. All of my coaching up to now has really been face-to-face or telephone. Lockdown came in, I had to jump into a platform quickly. Somebody said Zoom, I went on it, I picked it up really, really quickly, which is what I love about it. It's so easy that people aren't IT literate will get it very, very quickly. I still struggle with Teams, you know, trying to work out. It's not intuitive. It's a bit like an iPhone against other things. It's some things are just so intuitive. But now I'm looking for what's the next, you know, what I actually want from a system. And Zoom has some limitations to what I want. So, you know, I'm looking at other systems to actually allow that. So my gut is you'll probably have Zoom to do certain things and Team to do certain things, and you'll probably have 3 different platforms because no one actually does everything perfectly, which is a shame. But yeah, it may well develop more. But I think, like a lot of things, the one that will work is the one that you get behind and make work.
Yeah,
they're all constantly being developed.
If Zoom's working for you right now, stick with it until you find it doesn't. Like, but like Kevin's just said there, you know, he's sort of pushing the boundaries in certain areas, and you look for an alternative. What's everyone else using? Eddie or Nick? Are you using?
So I'm going to have to leave now because I'm hosting a Zoom meeting at 5 o'clock.
Oh,
thanks for your comments and
hope you guys well.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Graham.
Yes, I use join.me.
Oh yeah.
Which is fine. I use that because I do a lot of one-to-one collaboration on documentation, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And it works really well for that. So I would have said to that question, although the guy's gone now, don't lead with the technology. Which technology would you buy? It's got to be what's the requirement, and just map out what it is you want to do first, because we can all get sucked into a shiny technology sale. But what we want to do is find out what they want to do first, and then find the right solution for that. And it may or may not be Zoom, which is a great product, but it really does depend what you want to do.
What you want to do, yeah.
It goes back to, you know, you got to have a goal first, and then you put a plan together, and then you go out and find something that fits.
Because there aren't any bad video conferencing solutions left, I don't think. They're all reasonably good most of the time.
I've been using Google.
Oh yeah, that's a bit bad.
Because when Zoom came out, it linked into Google beautifully, and you pushed a button and it was there. And then Google obviously woke up and thought, shit, why aren't we doing our own product in this way? So they've suddenly chucked theirs in, and I thought, oh, that would be great. I'll use that, and it was awful. The streaming quality was terrible. It was crashing all the time, and it's like, geez, you know, normally Google at the cutting edge, but they've been left in the dust on this one.
Yeah.
Because they had Hangouts, you know, what, 2-3 years ago? I was using Hangouts. It was awful back then, and I gave up with it. So but now they call it Google Meetings or something, and it's still rubbish. But
well, you know, what do you expect from an advertising company?
It is all about the planning, as you say, though, Kevin. And we found through a lot of our clients, when COVID happened, a lot of them had a risk register, so they'd planned for risk, but then they were saying we hadn't planned for a global pandemic. But we go, but what's the problem? The problem is you can't access your building. It's a business continuity plan, and when people got their head around that, then they just went, oh yeah, we got a solution for that. We've got a business continuity plan, and we've tested it, so let's just invoke it.
Yeah.
And those people that had the plan are up and running, and the rest of them are on the phone to people like yourselves saying, we need help because we don't know what to do.
Yeah. And often, you know, and that's why I always say, look, the plan shouldn't be the limiting factor. People go, well, I don't have a plan for this. What do I do? No, that's not. You've still got to think outside the box and be prepared to chuck the plan away.
Yeah, definitely.
And start again. But it's the more you go through the planning process, then it comes back to when something happens, because the next thing that happened, we won't have planned for it. So that's the way crises go. You know, if we plan for it, it's not a crisis. So, but by planning it, we go, oh, when this sort of thing happens, this is what we do. That's why I love that 4-point thing. If you're ever stuck in your business, go back to those 4 things, because that's what all a business is those 4 things. People overcomplicate what a business actually is, and it's actually a very simple. It's just. No. The intricacies of it is very complicated.
What was the 4 things again?
Finance, sales, people, and operations.
Okay, gotcha.
That's it. That's ICI. That's Google. That's every single business. You break it down to those 4 things. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That's very good.
Good, lovely. Well, thanks for bringing me on, guys.
No, thank you, Kevin.
Hopefully we could do another one sometime in the future. It'd be great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and thanks for you guys for being on it. It's great that with webinars we can reach so many more people now, and help more people and get them engaged with it. So
Yeah, and it's all good for the environment because none of us are travelling.
That's it.
yeah.
Unless there's no more questions from anyone, I will call it a day. And thank you all for coming, Kevin. Thank you again for doing your bit. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for giving us your time and listening to our ideas. I really appreciate that too. And I hope to speak to you all at some point soon. All right.
Cool. How are you going to send the workbook out?
Yeah, we'll send the workbook out tomorrow. Yeah,
you'll get that done tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Super.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye bye.